Real talk. A 16-year-old just called me low-key giving boomer energy, and I was born in 2001. I wasn't even alive when Y2K was a thing. I didn't vote in the 2000 election. I literally grew up with SpongeBob and Disney Channel, and somehow, I am a boomer to a kid who was born when I was learning multiplication tables. If you were born anywhere between 1999 and 2005, and this is making you feel something, stick around. Because what's happening to us is not aging. It's not being old. It's something way more interesting than that. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why you feel like a time traveler in your own generation. Let's start with something that genuinely broke my brain when I first thought about it. The difference between a 21-year-old and a 16-year-old is literally just 5 years. 5. That's the same gap between freshman year and your first job. That's nothing. Biologically, culturally, legally, we're basically the same generation. We're all Gen Z. Same label, same Wikipedia page, same marketing demographic. But here's the thing nobody talks about. 5 years in internet time is like 50 years in real life. Think about it. Between 2010 and 2015, when older Gen Z was growing up, the internet was actually a place you went to. You had to sit down, open a laptop, maybe argue with a sibling about who gets the family computer. You logged onto Facebook. You watched YouTube videos that had actual intros. You made MySpace pages and spent 3 hours picking the perfect song for your profile. Now, a 16-year-old in 2025 has never known life without a phone in their hand. They didn't discover social media. They were born into it like it was oxygen. TikTok isn't an app to them. It's basically reality. The algorithm isn't something they scroll, it's something that thinks for them. Same generation, different planets. And that 5-year gap? It's not a gap in age, it's a gap in entire internet civilizations. And I want you to think about this for a second, because this is where it gets genuinely wild. Do you remember when you learned math? Actual math. Times tables, long division. That teacher who would literally make you stand up in front of the class and recite 7 times 8 until you got it right. And the classic threat, you won't always have a calculator about that. For older Gen Z, math was this serious, high-pressure experience. You memorized things because you had to, because the test was tomorrow, because your parents would check the report card, because the teacher said, and I quote, "The calculator won't always be there." And we believed them. We genuinely believed that one day we'd be standing in a grocery store with no phone, no calculator, and we would need to know what 13 times 14 is or we'd die. So we suffered, we memorized, we practiced, we had math anxiety at age 9. Now fast forward to the current 16-year-old. What does math mean to them? 9 plus 10 equals 21. That's it. That's the whole thing. That one vine became the foundational text of an entire generation's relationship with mathematics. It's not a mistake. It's not even a joke. It's an art form. It's absurdist performance. The point isn't the wrong answer. The point is that the wrong answer is funnier than the right one. And then there's 6, 7. If you know, you know. If you don't. So basically, why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7 ate 9. But younger Gen Z took that joke and turned it into something so deeply ironic, so layered with meta-humor that explaining it actually ruins it. That's the shift. For us, math was trauma. For them, math is a meme. We were drilled to get the right answer. They found comedy in the wrong one. Neither approach is better, but they could not be more different. And if you don't understand that shift, you are going to be very confused at a lot of family dinners. Speaking of confusing, let's talk about language, because I need you to understand something very important. You are now officially a tourist in your own generation's language, and you don't even have a phrase book. When older Gen Z was peaking, 2016, 2017, 2018, we had our slang, and it was good slang. Real slang. Slang with weight. That's fire. You knew exactly what that meant. Something was good. Something was excellent. Maybe even great. He's got game. Classic. Clean. Everyone understood it. For real. No cap on that one. Wait, actually, I can't even use that phrase anymore without sounding like a dad trying to connect with teenagers at Thanksgiving. But here's where it gets interesting. Younger Gen Z didn't just update the slang. They built an entirely new linguistic system with completely different rules. It ate, as in someone performed something brilliantly. They consumed the moment. They ate it up. She ate that performance. Clean, expressive, makes total sense once you know it. But if you're hearing it for the first time, you are very confused. Is. This one actually went mainstream, which means it's already dying in Gen Z circles. But rizz means charisma, natural attractiveness, social magnetism. He's got unspoken rizz means he's charming without even trying. Beautiful word, honestly. Delulu, short for delusional but used affectionately. I'm delulu for thinking he texted back. It's self-aware. It's ironic. It's admitting you're wrong while also celebrating it. What the sigma? This one is genuinely fascinating because sigma, as in the lone wolf, alpha but independent archetype, got so ironized by younger Gen Z that it became meaningless as a compliment and punchline at the same time. What the sigma is basically what the heck, with extra steps and internet history baked in. That's so Ohio. Ohio is a metaphor for something deeply uncanny and unsettling. No one fully agrees on why Ohio specifically, but it stuck. And now, if something is weird enough, it's Ohio. That's the level of logic we're working with. Here's the thing about all of this. The meanings are the same. You're still saying things are good, or bad, or weird, or that someone is charming. The emotional content is identical, but the entire vocabulary layer on top of it has been completely replaced. It's like if someone took your favorite song and re-recorded it in a language you've never heard. You recognize the melody, but you can't sing along anymore. That's what happened to your language. And you didn't get a notification about it. And it's not just the words, it's the humor. Because I need to talk about what happened to memes. And I promise this is more important than it sounds. Older Gen Z grew up with structured humor. There was a setup, there was a punchline. The joke had architecture, the rickroll, beautiful, elegant. You sent someone a link. They clicked it expecting something normal. They got, never gonna give you up. The contrast was the joke. The deception was the payoff. Setup, punchline, clean, Vine. Oh, Vine. Vine humor had rhythm. It had timing. There were actual comedic beats. Road work ahead? I sure hope it does. That's a structured joke with wordplay. It respects the listener's intelligence. It trusts them to make the leap. Two brothers or enemies? That one still lives in my head rent-free, and it's because the absurdity had a frame around it. Now here's younger Gen Z humor. Someone comments on a TikTok, ratio plus didn't ask plus L plus you fell off. That's it. No context, no setup. The joke is the absence of a joke. The humor comes from the randomness, the aggression, the complete rejection of conventional comedic structure. Or imagine someone posting a completely normal video of a dog, and the comment section is just, and he cooked, and bro is in his bag, and nah, 'cause why did this make me cry laughing? Nothing about the video, just chaos. Collective irony, a shared language of non sequiturs. And the thing is, it is funny. It genuinely is. But you have to be so deeply inside the culture to understand why a string of crying emojis in response to a dog video is peak comedy. Older Gen Z humor was clever. You earned the laugh. Younger Gen Z humor is chaotic. The laugh is the whole point. It's not better or worse, it's just a completely different comedy language. And if you grew up with setup punchline humor, walking into an absurdist meme space feels like showing up to a jazz concert, and everyone's improvising in a key you've never heard. And nowhere is this cultural divide more obvious than in the trends. Because the trends, my friend, the trends are where it all falls apart. Let me take you on a little journey. A before and after. And I want you to pay attention to how each one made you feel. Before, older Gen Z era. Planking. Remember planking? You'd lie flat as a board on top of something random. A mailbox, a shopping cart, a friend's head, and someone would photograph it. It was physical comedy. It was communal. It required you to be present in the real world with other humans. Harlem Shake. You'd have one person dancing alone in a room full of people who weren't paying attention, and then the beat would drop and suddenly everyone was going absolutely feral in costumes. It was coordinated chaos. Groups of people. Rehearsed spontaneity. Ice bucket challenge. This one was actually significant. You dumped a bucket of ice water on your head and nominated others, and yes, it was fun and viral, but it was raising awareness for ALS. It had a cause. It had a reason to exist beyond the clip itself. There was a through line in older Gen Z trends: human connection, physical presence, and sometimes, just sometimes, a point. Now, current younger Gen Z Skibidi Toilet, a YouTube series where giant human heads emerge from toilet bowls and battle against camera-headed humanoids in an ongoing lore-heavy war. That's not a joke description. That's the actual content. And kids were obsessed. They have merch, they have theories, they have fan fiction. Grimace shake. McDonald's releases a purple milkshake. A trend immediately emerges where people drink it, then film themselves dying dramatically. No reason, no cause, no message. Pure absurdist performance art disguised as a food review. PC streaming. Real humans go live on TikTok and act like non-playable characters from video games. They respond to GIFs with scripted phrases. Ice cream so good, over and over. And people send real money to trigger the responses. It's interactive performance art, yes, but it's also beautifully strange. Looks maxing. The practice of optimizing your physical appearance with extreme intentionality. Jawline exercises, specific skincare routines, mewing bone structure analysis. It started ironic, became sincere, then became ironic again, and now exists somewhere in the middle. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Then coordinated, grounded in reality, occasionally meaningful. Now algorithm-driven, designed for shock value, completely divorced from the physical world, and sometimes genuinely difficult to explain to another human being without sounding unhinged. But here's the thing, and this is important. Younger Gen Z didn't lose something. They adapted to a different environment. When you're born into a world of infinite scroll and algorithmic feeds, your content has to be more extreme to even register. The bar for attention isn't make something good. It's survive the first 3 seconds. We had space to breathe. They don't. And their trends reflect that. Which brings me to the part of this video that I think is going to hit the hardest for people born between 1999 and 2005. Because there's a specific experience we had that neither millennials nor younger Gen Z fully understands. And I need to give it a name. We are the buffer generation. And I mean that with complete seriousness. You know what a zillennial is? It's a term for people caught between millennials and Gen Z, and it might be the most accurate label ever accidentally invented. Think about the transitions we lived through. Not heard about, not read about, actually lived, in real time. Blockbuster to Netflix. I remember walking into Blockbuster on a Friday night. The smell of carpet and plastic cases, arguing with your parents about which movie to rent, the crushing devastation of the movie you wanted being out of stock. And then one day, slowly, then all at once, Blockbuster was gone and a little red envelope in the mail had somehow replaced the entire experience. We witnessed that transition as conscious human beings. Flip phones to smartphones. We had flip phones. We thought they were cool. Some of us had T9 texting, and we were fast at it. And then suddenly there was an iPhone, and then another iPhone, and suddenly touchscreens were normal, and keyboards were retro, and everything we knew about communicating via device had to be unlearned and relearned in about 3 years. Disney Channel to dark, complex streaming shows. We grew up on That's So Raven, Lizzie McGuire, Hannah Montana, content with happy endings and life lessons baked in. And then, without warning, the prestige TV era hit, and everything became morally ambiguous and emotionally devastating, and nobody won, and that was considered the good writing. We didn't choose to experience 3 different internet civilizations. We just happened to be born at the exact moment when the world was hitting fast forward. Every few years, the rules changed, the platforms changed, the language changed, the humor changed, the culture changed, and we adapted every single time because we had to. Here's the thing about millennials. Most of them missed the full force of this. They were already formed, culturally, socially, when the internet shifted gears. They have nostalgia for a pre-internet world and then adapted to digital life as adults. And younger Gen Z, they never had to adapt. They were born adapted. The chaos is their default setting. They don't experience whiplash because they've never known anything else. But us, we got the whiplash. We went through the updates in real time. We had to install them, reboot, and keep going, while also being in school and going through puberty and trying to figure out who we were. That's not nothing. That's actually a lot. And it's the reason that right now in 2025, a 22-year-old can feel like an outsider in a culture that technically belongs to them. So let me ask you something. When you see a younger kid using slang you don't recognize, or laughing at a meme that makes zero sense to you, or going absolutely feral over a toilet-headed YouTube character, what do you feel? Confusion? Yeah. Maybe a little bit of annoyance? Probably. But also something else. Something quieter. It feels like being left behind. Everyone got an update you didn't receive, and I want to address that directly because it's real, and it deserves to be said out loud. You are not old. I want to say that again, clearly, with full conviction. You are not old. What you are experiencing is not aging. What you are experiencing is evolution fatigue. And those are two completely different things. Old means your time has passed. Old means you're disconnected because you stopped paying attention or stopped caring. Old means the world moved and you refused to move with it. Evolution fatigue means you paid attention to every single version of the world as it changed. You moved with it every time. You adapted again and again and again until eventually, understandably, part of you started wondering if you even want to keep adapting. That's not old, that's exhausted, and there's genuine dignity in that exhaustion. Here's the difference between us and the 16-year-olds who are out there calling us boomers. They were born into the chaos. For them, there's no before and after. The internet has always been fast, loud, and algorithmically curated. TikTok isn't a revolution to them. It's just Tuesday. We remember the slow internet. We remember dial-up AOL and the sound it made when you connected. We remember when YouTube was new and weird. We remember when having a Facebook was the cutting edge of social existence. We carry all of that context like emotional software in the background. And sometimes it makes the current version of things feel foreign because we can see how different it is from what came before. That perspective, that's actually rare. That's actually valuable. Younger Gen Z is fast and adaptive and creative in ways that blow my mind. But they don't have the reference points we do. They can't feel the difference between then and now because they've never experienced then. We can feel it deeply in our bones because we were there. So no, you're not a boomer. You're a bridge. You remember enough of the old world to understand what was lost, and you're current enough to understand what was gained. That's not a weakness. That's a superpower that most people on either side of this divide don't have. The 16-year-olds saying you're giving boomer energy? They're not being cruel. They just don't have the context to understand that your confusion is actually comparative knowledge. They think you're behind. You're actually just carrying more. The internet moved on without sending you a calendar invite. It does that. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't prepare you. It just updates and expects you to catch up by yourself. And you have, repeatedly. More times than you've probably counted. That thing you feel when a meme goes over your head, or a slang term sounds like another language, or a trend feels completely alien. That's not the feeling of being old. That's the feeling of having lived through enough change that you notice when more change arrives. The younger kids were born into chaos. They can't feel it because they've never known anything else. You survived the update over and over and over again. And honestly, that deserves more credit than it gets. And before I go, I want to do one thing. I want to do a quick roll call because I think it'll make you feel something. If you remember Vine, say, I remember. If you used MySpace, say, I remember. If you went to Blockbuster on a Friday night, say, I remember. If someone once told you that you won't always have a calculator, say, I remember. If you've ever had to explain a meme to a teenager and felt actual despair, say, I understand, because all of that, that's not nostalgia. That's evidence. Evidence that you were there. That you lived through multiple internet eras in a single decade. That you adapted more times in your early years than most generations adapt in a lifetime. You're not a boomer. You're a time traveler. And the only reason younger Gen Z thinks you're old is because they don't know where you've been. All right, that's the video. If this hit different, if you felt something watching this, drop a comment below. Tell me, what's the one moment you realized younger Gen Z saw you as a different species? I want to know. I'll actually read them. And look, if you're a 16-year-old who made it this far, respect, genuinely. You lasted through 9 minutes of older Gen Z feelings, which means your attention span is better than people give you credit for. Drop in boomer in the comments. I'm ready for it.
For everyone else, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Not for the algorithm, not because YouTube told me to ask.
But because this channel is going to keep doing exactly this, finding the things that feel confusing or weird or weirdly emotional about growing up online and actually talking about them like adults, or close enough to adults. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell if you want to actually see the videos, and share this with someone who also grew up between MySpace and TikTok and needs to hear that they're not old, they're just carrying more history than they realize. I'll see you in the next one. Stay weird, stay curious, and remember, you didn't fall behind. The internet just forgot to send you the update notification later.